Oh, yeah.
Dictate too.
Good morning. Hi.
That was in Manoa. Yeah, Manoa. Every day. Good morning.
I don't watch
You guys I'm trying to live off the quick shots.
Welcome to the official groundbreaking for the Hale Kipa's Harry and Jeanette Weinberg campus. I'd like to make a couple of introductions first before we begin. Some are here, some are in transit. We'd like to say, please welcome the Chief of Staff for the Governor of the State of Hawaii, Governor David Ige. Mike McCartney is here. Mike. The 14th Mayor of the City and County of Honolulu. I only know that because I've just introduced him the last two nights as that. Mayor of the City and County of Honolulu, Kirk Caldwell, is in transit this morning. Joining us here, we're really happy to have State Representative Bob McDermott. Councilwoman for the City and County of Honolulu, Kimberly Pine. Councilman for the City and County of Honolulu, Ron Minor. And we're really pleased to have with us and always are appreciative of our men and women in uniform, especially from the City and County of Honolulu, Police Chief Susan Ballard. Since its beginning in 1970, as a single shelter on Oahu, Hale Kipa has served more than 45,000 youth throughout Hawaii, who often have nowhere else to turn. Hale Kipa is now one of the largest youth services in our islands. Hale Kipa serves Hawaii's most vulnerable youth, providing safe places for young people who cannot be with their families, and support services for youth and families who need help maintaining health environments. Populations served include youth and young adults who are homeless, runaways in foster care, or in the juvenile justice system. Nearly half of the young people served by Hale Kipa programs are Native Hawaiian. This includes working in partnership with public agencies, private organizations to provide residential, outreach, and foster care services at no cost. Through these services, Hale Kipa helps youth and families build resiliency to experience success in their lives. Where we are today will soon become the place where many of Hale Kipa's staff will make all of this happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce you to someone you all will know for more than 2 decades with Hale Kipa. Please welcome CEO Punky Clayton Cross.
And welcome. This is a very emotional moment for me and for us. This project is a result of a long and arduous process that began back in 2006 to find a permanent home for Hale Kipa. The campus will not be able to accommodate all of the Hale Kipa programs, nor should it, since we are in fact a community-based agency. It will, however, provide a sense of place to the organization, the opportunity to take advantage of a number of synergies that will enhance our ability to provide services. And if it takes a village to raise a child, it also took one for this project. So we are pleased to be here today to recognize the many efforts that have gone into making this groundbreaking possible. As we remind those we are privileged to work with, there are no guarantees of smooth paths without obstacles in life. But in this process, we have lived our values: patience, persistence and perseverance. In about 2005, we recognized that the vast majority of the youth and families we serve on the island of Oahu were coming from central and Leeward Oahu. And as an organization that had roots in primarily Manoa and in town, it became clear to us that if we were going to continue to try to serve those populations, we needed to be in an area that was much closer to them in order to provide the kind of services we wanted. We started our search for land, and in 2007 we were fortunate enough to acquire this parcel. In the course of that initial project, we designed what a colleague of mine or a friend of mine has described as the Taj Mahal. To say that it was overly ambitious is something of an understatement. But we were blessed with the recession, and not only did it cause the agency to shrink in total revenues from $11.5 million to $6 million, it also caused us to take a deep breath and take a look at what we were doing and why we were doing it. One of the gifts of that recession was that things were changing rapidly. Telecommuting is now far more common than it was. And we were very clear that we needed to have a facility that was big enough to meet our needs, but not so big that we couldn't maintain it easily and manage the operating costs. And so we right-sized that project. In 2015, we put out an RFP for an architect, and we're very fortunate to select Next Design. And shortly thereafter, we began working on what became known as a business plan. I saw Mitch Deolier when he arrived, and I said to him that that business plan was fundamental to our ability to move this project forward. It couldn't have come at a better time, and the questions that were asked about that business plan were really fundamental to our ability to understand what it was we were really trying to do. I would add, by the way, that when that final plan was done, there were no less than 8 to 10 people who had redlined that plan, including Chris Benjamin, the capital campaign, and various members of the board. As a result, it really was a plan that was reflective of a lot of buy-in of all kinds of people, an inclusive process that I think really speaks to the nature of the organization. And then a key turning point for us actually came in December of 2015, when we were fortunate to be given a very significant gift by the Harold Kale Castle Foundation. And that became the linchpin of our efforts on a going forward basis. This campus is really critical to Hale Kipa. I remind something Galen Wong said to me over and over and over again about the Weinberg Foundation, which is the Weinberg Foundation does not fund buildings. We fund programs and services. And so it has really stuck with me that the key of this facility is less the physical buildings, although those are very important, but really our capacity to improve and expand the work we do. Scott Siu, current board chair, when he first came on the board, reminded that we were in 19 different locations all over the state, and that what we really needed was an identity, a sense of place, something that would resonate for us and the community. When people would talk about Hale Kipa back in those days, they might know about a shelter in Manoa, or they might know about a drop-in center or a program in Kalihi, but they never really identified it as Hale Kipa. We would really like the opportunity in Emmett to be part of this community. We have always been in communities, but we've never been a real community partner. It's one of our primary goals. It is imperative to us that we connect our youth to the community that they live in and receive service in. And we want to demonstrate to the community that these youth, who have terribly difficult lives filled with trauma and substance abuse and shattered families, are not really different than anyone else, other than they are currently demonstrating the courage to try to address the issues that are holding them back in their lives. This location is also excellent because we have easy access to H1, H2, and H3, and as an outreach agency, we want to be able to get all over the island rapidly and quickly. The facilities that will be built will be quality facilities. Chris Benjamin, many years ago, made a comment that Hale Kipa does more with less than most organizations, and our facilities have never been up to the standard we would like. In a perfect world, youth who are in our shelters should be inspired to hope for lives that would allow them to live in similar facilities, and that's certainly our goal for them as well. We will also have staff that will not have to make do with facilities that are inadequate and don't provide them the kind of support that they need and deserve. There will be tremendous synergy when we open this campus because our administrative staff and our program staff will be together. One of the things that I feel will make a huge difference in this organization and in our culture is to see youth and families not only in our service center but in our shelter and on the campus. We want to invite the community in as well because we want to normalize that experience as much as possible. Culture truly matters to nonprofits. It's a fundamental part of who we are. We try every day to live our values, and we talk about them publicly with our staff and remind our youth of the things that they aspire to. Less obvious, I think, is the fact that our senior staff, the CEO, deputy CEO, clinical director, HR director, and others are not co-located with program staff. And so our middle managers do not have the opportunity of day-to-day mentoring and support, something that's really fundamental to professional growth and development and building a bench strength. We also have very strong neighbor island programs, and it's important to us that those staff be able to be in the same place as other program staff to share ideas and to talk about the issues that they're confronting and challenging. And it's one of the reasons why the drawing that is on the program is there, because we are a statewide agency and our neighbor island programs are a critical part of who we are. In the course of his remarks, Chris will be acknowledging many other people who have helped, but I would like to share my own thanks for a number of them that I've had the privilege of working with. This capital campaign has been going on for a very long time. I will not embarrass her, but I do know that Chris's daughter was much younger the first time I met Chris, and she certainly wasn't in college, much less graduated from it. But the gift of this capital campaign, more than anything to me personally, is the chance I've had to meet all of you and all of the wonderful people that I've met along the way. I have been exposed to the true heart and soul of the islands, and I have felt the aloha in very real and meaningful ways. There was an original phase to this campaign, and there are a number of people here that were involved. The chair at the time was Jeanette Hedberg, and the cabinet included Pip White, Momi Casimiro, and Richard Reese. Over the course of the last 12 years at least, as Susan Utsugi reminded me, one of my board members, we have been talking about this project what seems like forever. And if you came on the board of Hale Kipa after 2005, this project has been on the table that whole time. There were some very key board members who have been very active in this process, and while I appreciate all the efforts of the board, I want to acknowledge in particular Luke Ye, who served 7 years as board chair during the majority of this period, Scott Siu, who is the current board chair, Mike Magawai, Chris Duker, and Zach McNish. Zach is here today from Maui. He abandoned us and moved to Maui a couple of years ago. We still haven't forgiven him, but we do still love him. We've had a number of staff really be helpful to us. One is Lee Carson, who was very involved in the original project before we rebooted and redesigned. Tracy Janowitz, who is here today, has been our chief proposal writer and grant writer and has kept us moving forward. I mentioned the business plan, and the very first draft of the business plan was done by Jared Schreck. And Jared laid out a platform that was incredibly helpful to us. He was so good that he now works for Chris at A&B. There's a pattern here. And he was succeeded in working on that business plan by Kina Mahi, who is the other half of the McMahi team of Zach McNish and Kina Mahi. She was superb. And finally, I have really two people that I need to acknowledge. One, we have had the privilege of working with one of the finest people I've ever met, and in addition, he is a remarkable development person, and that's Charlie Howland. Charlie has been working with us as a almost volunteer since 2012, and I cannot tell you how much I've learned from Charlie and how much I appreciate him. He's a man whose values, whose worldview, and whose style align perfectly with us, and it's been a privilege to work with him. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the experience of working with Chris Benjamin. I mentioned that I've known Chris a long time, and over the course of that, my respect, appreciation, and admiration for him has only deepened. Chris, as you know, is the CEO of Alexander & Baldwin, but he wasn't always. And when we started this many years ago, he was in very different roles at A&B. My experience with Chris has taught me a number of things. He is a wonderful parent, and he and Melissa have done a spectacular job with their two daughters, Natalie and Emma. He's a great dad, and I think probably as important as anything, he's a man of principle and values. On two separate occasions, he has had communications that we have referenced. The last being at our annual meeting in September, when Chris was looking out at the Statue of Liberty, since he was in New York, and sent a text to me that I read that talked about the values of a country that supports immigration and believes in equity and believes in its people. And Chris has taken to heart the passion that we have for the youth that we are privileged to serve. He acknowledges that they are bundles of potential and strengths that need to be actualized, and he has supported us in this process. And it has not been an easy time, and there have been many times when I was quite surprised that Chris was willing to stay there with us, but he also demonstrates patience, persistence, and perseverance. I'd like to close by saying that this project is really intended to be the platform that will allow Hale Kipa over many years to continue to respond to the current emerging needs of the youth and families that we're privileged to serve. And I want to thank you for all you've done to support us and for being here today. And I'd like to introduce Chris Benjamin.
Punky, I want to thank you, first of all, for your leadership, for your vision of Hale Kipa's future that has driven us through this whole process, for your passion for the youth of Hawaii, especially those who have been dealt the worst hands in life, and for your friendship. In my lifetime, I've met few people who are as motivated by their heart to do good for others. And you've devoted your career to this pursuit, and nobody should be more proud of or is more responsible for this event today. And I'm very happy to see you enjoying it because you've earned it. So aloha, and thank all of you for being here today to celebrate this milestone in Hale Kipa's nearly 50-year history. I'd particularly like to thank Mike McCartney, who's representing Governor Ige. I know for a fact that Governor Ige is sorry that he can't be here today. He's off island, and Mayor Kirk Caldwell is here as well. Thank you both for being here, and all the other elected and appointed representatives of our city and state. We're very fortunate to have you here. So, we're really here. There was nothing inevitable about this day and the fact that we would be here for this groundbreaking. 100 different things could easily have derailed this project, and I can tell you they all tried. But an incredible amount of teamwork and collaboration have brought us here today. It was not at all inevitable that the women of the Junior League would partner with the Honolulu Police Department and the Episcopal Diocese nearly 50 years ago to create the first Hale Kipa shelter for girls on the grounds of the St. Andrew's Cathedral. It was not inevitable that Hale Kipa would survive, largely on a shoestring budget, funded by government grants and largely operating out of donated facilities for nearly half a century, while growing into an organization with 17 programs serving more than 2,000 clients annually. It was not inevitable that the leadership, staff, and board of Hale Kipa would have the vision and persistence to shepherd a project like this from concept to fruition. And it most certainly was not inevitable that so many outstanding people, foundations, and companies, along with the state of Hawaii, would provide more than $11 million to make it possible. Much like the history of Hale Kipa, this project is advancing because of the commitment of dozens, if not hundreds, of people with a belief in its mission and a generosity of spirit for the youth that it serves. More people had to step to the plate to make this project happen than I ever could have imagined. and they did. I'm especially happy that so many of you are here today. I can't call out everyone in my remarks, but suffice it to say, if you are here today, you helped make this campaign a success. I do want to acknowledge a few people, both present and not. And I'll start with Terry George, President and CEO of the Hale Kipa Foundation, who believed in Punky and Hale Kipa enough to pull together what may have been an unprecedented meeting of local foundations 3 or 4 years ago, at which he basically said to them, hey, let's all jump in together and make this happen. That meeting occurred at a moment of existential uncertainty for the campaign, and it gave us momentum and encouragement to go on. Terry's board chair, Mitch Joliet, was similarly supportive and gave me valuable advice about how to build a compelling business case for the project, as Punky referenced earlier. Once that business case was built, Bill Mills helped me tremendously in brainstorming a fundraising strategy and a list of potential donors, while also writing a $100,000 check personally, and giving me the confidence to approach so many business leaders who were remarkably generous. One of the first names on Bill's list was Jeff Stone. And when I arrived in Jeff's office 2.5 years ago, he already had read our business plan and had prepared a PowerPoint to show me how we were going to raise the money from the private sector. And he had some ideas about the foundations too. Jeff led the way, giving and getting $1 million from various Ko'olina entities and facilitating another $1 million contribution from DeBarco, the developers of Kamakana. These gifts gave us momentum that helped us raise another $1.4 million from various business and business-related foundations in West Oahu and on Bishop Street. Ken Williams and Sweetie Nelson are here today representing Jeff, who's in LA today, while representatives of several other supporting companies, including Matson, Alexander and Baldwin, James Campbell Company, and others, are here today. Jack Suey was instrumental in securing $1 million of support from the Clarence T.C. Ching Foundation, as were Tertia Fries and Bob Fujioka, who are both here today. Jack also introduced us to the Zilber Family Foundation, which made a generous grant. Janice Reichman from Haole Maloa Foundation played a critical role, not only in advising Punky along the way, but working with her board to provide a loan guarantee that helped the team at First Hawaiian Bank, led by Ralph Misek, to structure a construction loan and enable us to break ground today. And I want to thank Greg Sitar also, who's here today. And we never could have anticipated how valuable Christine Camp's donation of construction management support from Avalon Development would be. What was originally estimated at about a $300,000 in-kind contribution has probably far exceeded that, as Dan Curran from the Avalon team has guided us patiently through myriad pre-construction steps, and his work is not done yet. And thank you also, Dan, for being here today. As with every capital campaign in Hawaii, success would not have been possible without foundation support. But what is most remarkable about this campaign is the depth and breadth of that foundation support. A total of 20 foundations so far have supported the campaign, contributing $6.25 million. The list includes so many familiar and generous names, in addition to the ones I've already mentioned, like the McInerney Foundation, James and Abigail Campbell Family Foundation, Atherton Foundation, Island Insurance Foundation, Tyler, thank you for your support, Cook Family Foundation, and I'm not sure if Robin Midkiff is here, but I know she was on the RSVP list. Thank you, Robin. Thanks, Robin. With Atherton Foundation, Cook Family Foundation, Kosasa Foundation. I saw Paul last night and thanked him. The Strong Foundation, and Kamehameha Schools. Not sure if Jack has arrived, but Jack Wong, Mike Akane, and Corporal Kalama, all very supportive from KS. And then, of course, there is the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation. It's not only the case that we could not have finished this campaign without support of the Weinberg Foundation, but the reality is we never would have begun this campaign if not for the knowledge that they would be there for us. The guidance provided by Galen Wong over many years was invaluable to Punky and all of us, and the Foundation's $3 million contribution was the linchpin in the entire effort. I can't tell you how pleased I am to have Rachel Monroe, CEO of the Weinberg Foundation, and Rob Kelly, Weinberg Foundation's chairman, here today from Baltimore and Pennsylvania, respectively. Can we give them a hand? There's so many other people here today, including board members, our earliest campaign committee members, the amazing Tracy Jeanette back there. She's been tireless and unbelievable through this process. My wife, of course, I have to get that in. Punky's wife, I gotta get that in. And the list goes on. You all made this happy, and I'm so thankful for your support. I'm going to go off script just for a second, and since Punky has revealed that my daughter Emma is here, I want to brag about her for a second. Melissa and I are so fortunate to have Emma back. She's a second-year law student in Boston, but is here for 3 months doing an internship with the Hawaii Innocence Project. And I think it's a coincidence, but her internship just happens to coincide with winter. And we're thrilled to have her home. Very proud of what she's doing. In closing, nearly 20 years ago, a guy named Charlie Howland taught me that when you fundraise for a nonprofit organization, you are not taking from your donor, you are giving them an opportunity. Charlie not only planted that seed many years ago, but he held my hand over the last few years and helped guide this campaign. As I've witnessed the way all of you have responded to our requests, I see that Charlie is right. You all have seized an opportunity to help one of the neediest populations among us. You have impressed me with your generosity, and I thank you for what has been one of the most rewarding endeavors of my life. Most of all, however, I thank you for making Hawaii better through your work and your philanthropy. And with that, I'd like to introduce the Hale Kipa Board Chair, Scott Seal.
You know, I'm here representing the board of directors. I represent our current board. I represent all the former board members, dating all the way back to when Hale Kipa was first formed. And you know, it struck me, right? Some of you may have heard a quote from Isaac Newton, who said, if it seems like I see farther, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And it truly is that type of a moment. One of the things that I do want to comment on is that, you know, Chris, Punky, you said this in your remarks, how we are here today because of so many little steps and so many little efforts that built up over all of these years. I joined the board after this parcel was acquired. So when I came on the board, I heard of this mysterious project called Old Fort Weaver Road. And I thought, wow, that sounds so inspirational. So I'm happy, I'm so pleased that we actually have now an official name, that it's now Hale Kipa's Weinberg campus, so thrilled. So, one of the things that I do want to point out is, following my remarks, we will be having an o'o ceremony. And for those of you who are familiar, it represents groundbreaking Hawaiian style. O'o today tends to be more ceremonial, more symbolic, but I can tell you that the o'o truly was and still is an implement that many people use in their backyards. I remember my grandfather having one of these big steel, I think it was steel o'o, and I, as a young child, could not even lift it. But the o'o can do remarkable things given the proper leverage, and I think that's actually a great symbol of what it took to get us this far. If you're familiar with the history of Hale Kipa, you know that since 1970, the organization has operated out of many sites and many locations. As Punky described, you know, it was difficult though to really think about any one particular location as truly being Hale Kipa. Some of those sites the organization owned, some we did not. Many have come, many have gone, and it's always been basically to meet the needs of the programs and of course of budgets. So when I think about those sites compared to what we have here today, the difference is that this site, for the first time to me, will truly represent the piko of Hale Kipa. So for those of you who are not familiar with the concept of piko is your navel, but it's actually inside. It's more the center of us as human beings. And as the piko of Hale Kipa, this will offer us the opportunity to center the organization, to serve as the stabilizer for the agency, for our youth, and for their families. So that's what this new campus represents. I think Billy mentioned how Hale Kipa translated means house of friendliness. At least that's what our website says. I'd like to take that one step further though. And rather than just stopping at being a house of friendliness, I would like us to think about a house of hospitality. To me, the word hospitality takes it into the realm of if this is my home, I open my home to you, I share my resources, and when you leave, my true hope is that you leave stronger, that you leave more resilient, and you leave knowing that you can always come back. You are always going to be welcome back. And that's actually what Punky, our staff, that's what they do every single day as they work with our youth. This new campus will be the physical pico of Hale Kipa. The staff and their hearts will make it into a sanctuary. We've talked about sanctuary. And so this is actually going to be a Hale Kipa for the community. With that, I am just thrilled again to be here representing the board. Thank you very much for all of the support that everyone here has given, for the organizations that you represent. We could not have done this without you. Those who are doing us a favor of participating in the O'o ceremony represent all of you. Unfortunately, we did not have 100 O'o here available. You may also notice that the O'o are a sort of a variety of O'o. The story behind that is, as those of us who have participated in O'o ceremonies in the past, you are often allowed to take the O'o with you. Well, what better symbol of the resilience of the ability, the ability of this organization to be resourceful, to reuse, to recycle, to rebirth these implements than having these just slightly used O'o. So with that, I congratulate you, Punky, for your resilience, for your sticking with it. Chris, for all the heavy lifting that you and the Capital Campaign have done over these years, and our prior Capital Campaign members, and of course all of our supporters and donors. We just could not be here without all of you. So with that, thank you, congratulations.
And so it's my pleasure and my privilege and my honor to be here today to offer a blessing, a prayer of blessing for the land and the new beginning that we have together as a family, as a community that has worked together and is here together now to take that first step so that something new can emerge on this land, which has its own rich history, and the ancients and the ancestors are with us today. We acknowledge them and respect the history and spirit of this place. And so I'll just say a prayer for the big wave we're about to catch. Would you stand as we pray together? And thank you so much for everything that you are about and the work of your hands, the work of our hands today. E pulikako, let us pray. Mai ke aloha mai no ke akua. And yes, God, you have been with us every step of the way in the journey of life. Emmanuel, God with us in this season of Advent. We thank you so much for those who have gone before and had the vision and the faith to take that first step. And now many, many steps later, here we are, and new things are happening. Exciting things are before us. And you have gifted us with so many resources and people and things to enable us to do the work that we have in the best way possible. And so, God, we thank you for this place, this land, and the work that is about to begin. We've done the best that we can to make all the preparations. And we ask now that you come and give us all your blessings. Bless this ground as it begins to be transformed into a new place. Bless those who will be working here, that they will be safe, that you will watch over them and help them to do the best job that they can. And bless the facility and the home, the new place, the new campus of Hale Kipa, that it would serve the purposes to which it has been designed and would be a good place to do the work that we are about. And bless each and every person here today and what they bring to this project and this new phase for Hale Kipa. We thank you for being with us in the days past. Come and be with us now as we work this ground and as something new comes forth. And we just ask for all your blessings now, every mercy, every grace, every blessing in the new beginning that we desire be ours, we pray. Makainoa o kamakua a meka keiki a meka o hani molele. Amen. Amen.
Kahuda's small poulet, taking the water and the tea leaf, which I imagine in the sunshine would feel really good right about now. And they will dig into the aina 3 times.